Hey guys, so it might be obvious from the way that I have been reading in the past year, or the discussions that Gretchen and I have been having, or even just the videos that I do on my own, that I have been focused in the last year quite a bit on my own racial biases, in part because of everything that happened with George Floyd and BLM last year, but also just because I honestly felt like for a long time, being someone that was raised to be more accepting that I was doing enough. I was, raised in New England. I thought that I was raised in a way that I wouldn't have any biases because I was taught to love everyone. Everyone is equal. But obviously I grew up in America. And so as a white person in America, it is impossible to not be racist. Not to be, outwardly racist. I'm not going to go lynch people, call people slurs, things like that. But the system itself and the way that we're taught in school definitely leads to internalized biases and ways that you don't even realize that you might be racist. And there's a lot of white people who clearly think, well, if I'm not, racist, KKK racist, then I'm good, right? I did it. I'm not racist. I didn't do this. And for a long time, that's what I thought. I didn't need to do any work. And after seeing the reactions to BLM and doing some internalized thinking about the discussions that were going on, I realized that I actually have a lot of work to do in order to fully be anti-racist. So I wanted to talk about some of the books that I've picked up that I'm hoping will help me to continue on that journey. I also spend a lot of time watching and listening to people of color talk about their experiences through TikTok, through YouTube, whether they're fellow booktubers or just TikTokers talking about the social justice issues going on. And especially after another racial hate crime that happened last week, this time towards Asian Americans. It's something that I think that all white Americans really should at least be prescient of, if not actively trying to change. So here are some of the anti-racist books that were recommended to me, and if you, like me, would like to do better, maybe looking into some of these would be worth your time. So the first book we've talked about on the channel, and hopefully Gretchen and I will be doing a joint review of, and that is Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. This is a history book discussing the origins and perpetuation of racist ideas in America. I'm the reason that we haven't had a review of this up. We were supposed to review it in February, and we're probably not going to get to it until April, because I can only read about 30 pages of this at a time before I am so emotionally drained, and I feel like it would be doing it a disservice to keep reading it just to push through it. I'm trying to read and engage with it. I have sticky notes in it. I'm trying to highlight, take notes, stop and think and internalize. And all of that means that it's taking me a lot longer to read it than I would obviously read a fiction book. But also because I think that it's important to take the time with something like this and to face your own initial reactions to it. So when I read something and it makes me feel upset, if it's making me feel upset, it's going to be making somebody else feel even more upset. As a white person, it feels really bad to have to think that there are people who look like me who are doing these things to other people, who are, cheating the system and using law and using structures in order to keep other people down. And obviously, as a woman, that's something that, I've seen it happen, in my own experience, but still, in reading this, I'm trying to not just read the words, I'm trying to listen to what is being said. So yes, this one for relearning history or unlearning history or learning another side of history, Stamped from the Beginning. The second book is also by Ibram X. Kendi, and that is How to Be Anti-Racist. And I actually got the journal that comes with it because obviously this is meant to be a how-to guide, but it's about discussing not just being an ally, but being an accomplice, how you can go from being what you assume it to be not racist, as in not a KKK member, and not just someone who is passively living in a society that is continuing to be racist, but how to actively change your thinking and your actions in order to be anti-racist and working towards a society where there isn't racism. How to break those down in yourself, how to internalize it, and break away from those biases, and recognize when you find a bias, because you may not, like, this isn't going to instantly change your brain waves, right? Like, there's going to be something that you're going to come across and realize, oh no, like, that might be something that comes from somewhere. It stems from racism, misogyny, whatever it be. And this is really meant to go hand in hand with the book in order for you to take what is being said here, the lessons that you're being taught, and apply it to yourself and your own history, your own way of thinking, all of those things. I think these two are going to be helpful in that, in being able to recognize in myself when I am doing something that is harmful, that I may not have thought was harmful. Because that's one of the hardest things when you have implicit bias, is that you don't realize that you have implicit bias. You don't see that that's what that is. You don't realize that what you're saying is a microaggression. You think it's fine, and it's not. So these are the things that I got to try and help me with that. One, to help me talk about myself, and one, to learn the lessons themselves. So if that's something that interests you, this might be a good one to start with, because it's at least giving you that path of, like, what am I trying to undo? What am I trying to build within myself outside of that? Along the same line, I have Biased, Uncovering the Hidden Prejudice That Shapes What We See, Think, and Do by Jennifer L. Eberhardt. I believe it might be Eberhardt, but Eberhardt. Same line. This is meant to look at the way that you think, the way that systems are put into place, and recognizing when something is biased. Just, biased is what it is. This one was spoken about. Kayla read it recently from Books and Lala. I saw it there, but I also had it on my radar before that, and she liked it, which means that I wanted to pick it up more so than some of the other ones. But yes, so another book looking at sociology, looking at psychology, looking at internalized biases, looking at systemic biases, things like that, which is something that I've been particularly interested in, because it's impossible to dismantle those if you can't recognize and call them out. So this one's just generally biases, the other one was racist biases, both of which are interesting to look at. So again, if that's something that intrigues you, this might be worth looking into as well. If it's systemic things that intrigue you, or the ways in which laws have changed in order to continue to be racist, I picked up The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. This is the 10-year anniversary edition. It feels weird that this has been out for 10 years because nothing has changed in all of that time period. I believe this also has, like, a foreword from the author at, after 10 years, and what has changed, if anything, which for me, it seems like nothing has really changed. So if that's something that interests you, especially when it comes to the prison system and the way that our laws have perpetuated and continued a form of slavery, a form of control over especially Black and brown bodies, this is for you. My freshman year in college, I took a sociology class called Incarceration in Modern Times, which focused on a lot of what this book is talking about. But I wanted to read this one myself. We read chapters from this, but didn't read the whole book. So I wanted to read it for myself, to delve into this a little more. Something that I have touched on and obviously have been thinking about for a long time, but to really do a deep dive and look into how policing of Black and brown neighborhoods, policing of Black and brown bodies is just another form of control, another form of enslavement, as it were. And finally, because I am a woman, and because I'm interested in the intersectionality between racism and misogyny, I picked up Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall, which is a series of essays discussing that particular intersection of Black and brown folks and feminism, especially because there's the discussion of white feminism, how the original feminist movement really shuts out Black and brown voices, POC voices. So reading something that's talking about more inclusion, more intersectionality, I think would be helpful to me as well, because my upbringing with feminism is traditionally very white. It would be helpful for me to add in more diverse voices and to just learn what they have to say about feminism. I also would like to pick up some books that have to do with the intersectionality between the LGBTQIA and Black and brown folks, because I know that it is different for them than it is for white queer folks, but I don't have any particular books in mind for that. I'll put this down because it's not pertinent to this one book. I have more books on a TBR list on the story graph to pick up at some point, but obviously I can't read all of these very quickly, and purchasing them all and then not reading them is not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to appease my guilt by just appearing to be anti-racist by just buying these and doing the performance of like, look, I have them, I'm a good person. I want to read them and internalize them and hopefully change my actions and thinking. And there are more books that aren't physically here that I want to read to do the same thing. If you have any recommendations, please leave them down below for me, because obviously this is not an exhaustive list, and even the books that I have shelved as TBR are not an exhaustive list. And as someone who is a white person who in theory could turn everything off, could stop listening to them, could turn the news off and not have to deal with that on a day-to-day basis, I think that reading these things periodically and trying to at least listen and keep up to date with everything means that I will continue to work on myself, because I have the luxury of not doing that. I have the luxury of feeling perfectly accomplished and living my life without helping others. But I don't think that that's what I should be doing. I don't think that that's healthy. I don't think that's good for our society. So yes, if you have any recommendations, please send them to me, because it's something that I want to keep working on, and I think that it's going to be a lifelong process. When I do finally have kids, it's important to me that I pass on these lessons as well, and I don't know what I need to pass on if I'm not exposed to it. If I don't get all of these experiences somehow, whether it's through literature, through fiction, through these nonfiction books, I think it's important to discuss, to talk about, and also just important to share, to not do all of this quietly and try and hide the fact that I think that there's things that I have said and done that are harmful to other people. There's a past that I can't change. There's history in America that I cannot change and can't do anything about. And just reading these books isn't going to be enough, but I think it's a place to start. And if you don't know where to start, join me in this, and perhaps this is a place to start. Pick something up. Be open to it, listen to it, and take in what it's trying to say, even if it hurts you. That's all that I wanted to say today. Obviously, again, it's not an exhaustive list. It's what I've started with, and I hope that you guys are doing okay. We have listed down below BLM links since June, so please, if you have the funds to support people, that's open to you. As more things come in, we may switch out those links or add in other links as changes happen. But I want everybody to stay safe and to be happy. So I'll talk to you again soon.